Hey guys, it's Scott with Scottie B Cards, and in this video I want to look how steroids affect players' prices. As we all know, Fernando Tatis Jr. was caught doing steroids, whether that was through accidental reasons with ringworm medication or if it was through actual steroids and he was lying about the ringworm medication. We aren't quite sure. Either way, he has received an 80-game suspension, which probably will affect his long-term values. I want to break down historical values of players who have done steroids, where their cards are in comparison to their peers, and why Tatis may or may not be in trouble. I think it's really too early to say because it is a very different environment than what it historically has been. And I'm only going to be looking at players who've actually received a suspension. So Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, a lot of other steroid users actually were on the Mitchell report, but they did not receive a MLB handed out suspension. So for that reason, I will not be looking at their cards. I'm going to look at players such as Alex Rodriguez and so forth, who actually did receive a MLB handed down suspension where they missed games due to their steroid usage. So let's jump into it. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do so now. It helps the channel grow. I would really appreciate it, as other people will see the content because of it. Okay, let's roll into this. The very first thing, there have actually not been as many tests positive for steroids as you would think. There's been 79 positive tests since Major League Baseball has actually been making it a rule if you have steroids, then you're banned or you're going to be suspended for a specific number of games. So these are all the players who've been caught using steroids since steroids have been more taboo. Back when Bonds and Clemens were using it, they were banned, but they really weren't checked for. So a lot of players could have been using steroids for a long time, but if they were more discreet about it, then let's say some players who were doing steroids on the team bus, then you would have no idea that they were using steroids because they weren't tested until later when the whole debacle came about. So starting in 2005, we can see a lot of names. You can see some big ones. Rafael Palmeiro is a big one. You can see this guy actually got caught twice over here. This dude got caught 3 different times. He's banned from Major League Baseball forever. He doesn't have like a 80 game or 162 game suspension. He's banned forever. You'll see a couple other great ball players you might not know, like Nelson Cruz have been caught doing steroids and received a suspension, all the way down to Fernando Tatis Jr. So quite surprising, only 3 players this year have been caught using steroids out of probably 1,100 to 1,200 who are being tested. So that makes you really realize steroids probably aren't a huge issue in today's baseball. You could argue they use various things that may improve performance, but currently for banned substances, they're either getting away with it really well or it's not as prevalent in Major League Baseball. I want to show a couple comparisons of a couple different players, and I want you to think price-wise which one you think is higher. So this top player right here, he has 696 home runs, has a batting average basically of 300. He has one of the highest RBI totals in the history of Major League Baseball. His career OPS plus, meaning compared to league average, is 140, and 3,000 hits. The next player has 3,000 hits, which is great. He has 1,300 RBI, which is lower, a 310 batting average, so a little bit higher, but still around 300. His OPS plus is significantly lower at 115. This top player had about 120 WAR, while this bottom player had about 70 WAR. Top player had 3 MVPs, 14 All-Star appearances. This bottom player does not have any MVPs, 14 All-Star appearances, and you can look at the various stats, 10 Silver Sluggers versus 5, and so forth. Those players you probably already know are Alex Rodriguez and Derek Jeter. And the reason why I'm using these two as an example is because they were looked at throughout the history of baseball for a long time as like the clean player and the dirty player, and they played right next to each other in New York for years. So Alex Rodriguez, he got caught doing steroids twice, and he will probably miss the Hall of Fame because of it. He actually, I think, is probably less likely to get in than Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, not just because of performance, but because, again, he received a suspension. All those other two did not necessarily. So we can look at them. We can see Alex Rodriguez has better career numbers significantly. Derek Jeter does have 5 World Series, which is insane for a baseball player, especially as one of the best players, if not the best player on the team. But overall, Alex Rodriguez, there's no doubt in my mind he's better offensive value. Probably defensive too, because Derek Jeter's defensive stats are not great. This 50 WAR swing is huge. A 50 WAR swing is like having a Mookie Betts career added on top of Derek Jeter, because he's worth 50 WAR, Jeter's worth 71. That gets close to 120. You get the idea. So let's go look at pricing for these two, shall we? Let's look at their rookie cards. This is the 1994 SP Alex Rodriguez in a PSA 10. Goes for about $17,000, which is a really solid card. There's only 59 of these in a PSA 10. So not really that many. The market cap for the card is about less than $1 million. So it's a really rare card. You know, it should be his premier rookie card to go after, and it is. If you look at Derek Jeter, he actually has less. His pop of his 1993 SP is 21, which is less, about a third of what what Alex Rodriguez had, but it goes for, instead of $16,000 like Rodriguez, it goes for about $300,000. So it just shows there's a couple things here that's not quite a fair comparison, and I understand that Derek Jeter is Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez is Alex Rodriguez when it comes to, you know, the Yankees fan favorite, all these different things. He really immortalized baseball for that era, same with Ken Griffey Jr. and so forth. But the point remains, based off his stats and performance, because Alex Rodriguez isn't quite as loved as Derek Jeter and he wasn't the Yankees captain, it really has affected his pricing. And I can guarantee if he was a clean baseball player, this card would be worth 3, 4, 5 times more than it is now. But it's unfortunate that he was caught using steroids twice, and this is the comparison that we have. The market cap, so you can compare like low pop, whatever, but market cap is about $6 million for the Jeter, less than $1 million for Alex Rodriguez, so pretty crazy. Next up is Robinson Cano. He was caught twice using steroids. He received an 80-game suspension and then 126-game suspension. He also claimed that it was due to a medication that he did not realize had steroids in it. That's a very similar theme. It could be true, it could be false, but unfortunately, cheaters also say it, so you have to take the people who are being truthful with a grain of salt, which is hard for Tatis if he is being truthful, because we can't believe it because of people like Robinson Cano. And the first time people kind of believed it, the second time you're like, yeah, you're a cheater. Either way, he's one of the best second basemen in the history of Major League Baseball. You can see he is right here for his Jaws. Jaws takes into consideration your all-time WAR and your 7 WAR peak, so it takes the 7 best years of your career. He's right behind Bobby Grich, Rod Carew, Joe Morgan, a couple other great Hall of Famers from back in like the 1920s. Basically, since like the 1930s, you have Joe Morgan, Rod Carew, Bobby Grich, Robinson Cano, and then a couple other Hall of Famers behind him. So I just want to show he is that good. He's a very good ball player, 5-time Silver Slugger. You can see that he's been in the top 10 MVP voting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different times, which is amazing for a second baseman. He has 335 home runs, but his cards don't go for much. This is his flagship rookie gold parallel in a 9, which is a tough grade for that era, $65. A gold refractor number 69 right here, that goes for $50. And then his Bowman Chrome autograph essentially doesn't have a Bowman Chrome autograph. His Bowman autograph goes for less than $100 and a decent grade for that era. So it shows again, this is a player who's disfavored in the media, disfavored by fans because of the cheating aspect, and there could be more to it for sure, but I think steroid usage has really hurt his card values. Okay, so I want to do one more comparison. We'll go a little bit quicker on this one. Player on the top, player on the bottom, relatively similar careers. 70 WAR, 70 WAR, 2,500 hits versus 3,000 hits, 312 batting average versus a 309 career batting average. Runs are almost identical. RBI is almost identical. Stolen bases is identical. A little bit different player when it comes to how they've gotten their OPS to where it is, but the OPS plus is higher for this player than this player. This player over here does have multiple MVPs, a triple crown, batting titles, while the top one does not have those things, but overall career value has been relatively the same. Those players are Manny Ramirez and Miguel Cabrera. So I want to show them again. Miguel Cabrera is a great hitter. Manny Ramirez is a great hitter. He was one of the worst defensive players in the history of Major League Baseball. If he was not literally one of the worst players on defense in the history of Major League Baseball, he would have been probably an 80 to 90 WAR player. Either way, they have relatively similar offensive profiles when it comes to batting average, OPS plus, home runs. All of it is relatively similar. If we look at pricing, however, it's not similar. This is 1992 Manny Ramirez OPC rookie card. I don't know a ton about Manny Ramirez rookie cards because why would I? No one really does. But he should be worth more based off of those statistics. There is only 56 PSA 10s of that card and it goes for $405. If we look at Miguel Cabrera, his Topps Chrome rookie card, which is considered his probably best base rookie card. If you want to get a PSA 10, it's a lot easier to get, about 10 times more, actually maybe even more plentiful than the Manny Ramirez, and it costs a lot more than the Manny Ramirez. $2,200, $500. For this PSA 10, that's more plentiful than the one that's less plentiful. So just a reminder again, even though they are very similar offensively, Miguel Cabrera has been viewed as a clean player, while Ramirez has been caught doing steroids twice, I believe. So steroids do impact a ball player, but those are for very obvious circumstances with sluggers at the end of their career, and you have to question their entire career. What about Tatis, who got caught at the beginning of his career, and who knows if it was a real thing? If we look at Tatis, his cards aren't as down as I would have expected. So we can see, I only did the last, 6 months. At the beginning of this graph, you can see that the high price was $5,000, average price is $3,600, but these cards were worth about a little bit less than $3,000 before the steroid usage because he was not playing due to his broken wrist. The last sale has been since he was caught doing steroids, which was $2,150. So that last price is not as low as I thought it would be. The same thing holds true for his Topps Chrome rookie rookie autograph. The last sale is actually up, basically from before he got caught or right after he got caught. It's going back up, and it's currently worth, the last price, what is this? About $1,200. So Tatis is a very interesting circumstance, and I'm not going to say what I think is going to happen because I don't know. We don't know. We will never know, because until the future happens, we can't predict what will happen, specifically with this unique circumstance with a player who was supposed to be the face of baseball, had got caught with steroids really early in his career. With Tatis, I've actually heard sellers who sell a lot of volume that the Tatis cards are selling better now than they ever have for not that much lower than what they would have gone for. So let's say it's a 20% discount for these sellers, but they can move it quickly because he's in the news. It just proves that any publicity is good publicity for card's sake. The question we have to ask ourselves is, what is it going to look like for the long-term values? Look at Manny Ramirez again. There's not much value for a player who had a fantastic career, a World Series MVP, mind you. He was a good ball player with a better OPS plus for his career than a lot of Hall of Famers, higher than Albert Pujols, for example. It is a higher OPS plus than Albert Pujols. Not higher WAR, because Albert Pujols has done it for longer, but just for the actual peak, it's a pretty impressive dominance versus league average. So Tatis has to do a lot. He has to show that he's clean the rest of his career, and Hall of Fame voters have to change drastically, and that's a lot of ifs. 1, he has to be a Hall of Fame talent, which it's so early, it's hard to say he's going to be. 2, Hall of Fame standards have to completely change. 3, collectors, the purists that we are, have to completely change our view when it comes to steroid users. And 4, I have no idea what the 4th is, but it sounded better that way. So for Tatis, I'm only talking about him at the end because it's making this conversation relevant, but I do want to show people who've been caught using steroids and received a suspension from baseball have a hard time maintaining value. So that is it for this video. Let me know in the comments below if you liked this video, didn't like this video, what your thoughts are on steroids, what will happen to Tatis cards, and other than that, I will see you in the next video.